Hello, my name's Trish and I work for Crafter's Companion with all things sewing. In the previous video we looked at cutting with our rotary cutter and ruler, and today I'm going to show you the differences between the fabric, the way we can buy them. Quite often we buy fabric by the metre and you can buy them in fat quarter packs. Now a fat quarter in comparison to a metre is a quarter of that, and the fabric itself, this is about the size of a fat quarter. It's roughly in inches, 22 inches by 18 inches. So it's a quarter of a metre of fabric, but rather than being a long quarter, it is a whole metre cut in half vertically and then cut in half horizontally. And this is the best way to get a variety of fabrics at the cheapest prices. So rather than having to buy 5 full metres of fabric, you can buy 5 quarter metres, but in the form of a fat quarter. Quite readily available. Crafter's Companion have lots of very beautiful fat quarter packs available. The next one I'd look at is the charm pack. Charm packs are also a variety of fabrics, as you can see, and they are cut into 5-inch squares. These are very handy for the variety of fabrics, in just popping them together, which I'm going to show you in a moment how to pop squares together. And you can make bags from them, you can make quilts from them, a manner of things, but some of the cutting is taken out of it for you. And then another very popular way of buying fabric is called a jelly roll. Now these are a width of fabric about 2.5 inches wide. So as you can see, you have got a variety, of colours here. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably 10 different fabrics within that jelly roll. They do also come larger. This is a mini jelly roll. You can get an even bigger jelly roll, which is twice the size. So from there, I'm going to show you how to join 5 fat quarters that have been cut down into squares, and I'm going to show you how to join them together and press them to get the best intersection of squares. When you've joined them together, you want to have a nice neat intersection where the points meet. So taking a little bit of fabric, I had already cut, if you'd like to look at the previous video of starting your patchwork, you'll see that I had cut some strips of fabric which were 2.5 inches wide, and I'm just going to cut myself from this another 2.5 inch squares, and then another 2, so that I can show you how to join them into a 4 patch. So again, I'm lining my vertical line at the edge of the fabric which I've just cut, and I'm going to cut a 2.5 inch square there and cover my blade, and then just one more to give me the 4 squares that I need to join together. So here I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 4 patch is joined this one to this one, and then this one to this one, and then the 2 together and stitched across here. So I will just show you how I would put them together. So I'm going to lay that one on the top there and that one on the top there. I'm going to line the edges up here, and I'm going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance with my foot. Now, if your machine has a 1/4 inch foot, it makes life easier that you can get an accurate seam allowance, because after all, patchwork on this occasion is an accurate piecing of fabric. There are on occasion where the seam allowance doesn't really matter, but here we need to have a beautiful, perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to stitch down there, and when I get to the end, I'm not going to cut my thread because I can stitch the next one straight away. And so I'm going to line those edges up and pop it under the foot and stitch to the end there. So I'm going to take the fabric from the machine now, and I'm going to clip those apart, and then I'm going to take them to the ironing board, and we're going to iron those in a particular way so that I can nest my seams. So I have my two pieces here, and I like to keep my seams together. Once upon a time, the seams used to be opened out, and you can still open them out if you would like to. The reason for that, for opening them out in years gone by, it was the done thing. But what happened was the wadding used to beard through to the front. Nowadays, waddings are made in a much better way and less bearding occurs. But I like to put both my seams together and iron them to one side so that I can have accurate nesting of my seams. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have my seam going one way. So I like to set my seam first. So I'm going to iron that down, lift my fabric up, and then push the side of the iron over, and I've got myself a nice crisp edge. So because that seam went that way, I want this seam to go the other way. So again, I'm going to set the seam by ironing over it, and then I'm just going to iron that and push that flat. By using the side of the iron to push the fabric out, it means that there won't be a little pleat in the fabric. And this way you get your accurate seams. So having my two pieces now nicely pressed, I am going to lay them top to bottom. And what you'll see here is that the two seams, you can actually feel, I'll pull them apart, and those two seams, as you push them together, they will butt up against each other, and we're going to get a nice cross section there accurately together. So if you like to pin, you can pop a pin at that point, and then we'll line up those raw edges and take it back to the sewing machine and stitch a 1/4 inch seam again. So with the foot down, I'll just slowly go across here. The other thing I would always say, don't stitch over a pin. The least it can do is break your needle, and the worst it can do is to actually make your machine malfunction because it has made the mechanism go out of sync. So having stitched along there, we'll just clip that off, and when we open this up, there is a perfect cross section of my squares. So if you'd like to make a lot more of those and join those together, you can make yourself your first patchwork quilt. Join me again another day, and I will be show you some more techniques with your patchwork journey.